Halo Infinite looks mostly great, but underneath the surface, I've noticed a few red flags. Things I'm very concerned about that could make or break the entire story and campaign, and ultimately the entire enjoyability and success of Halo Infinite. But before we get started, be sure to smash that like button blue, as every like helps boost the video up the search result and helps me out a lot as a content creator. Thanks so much, let's jump into it. This video is supported by Audible. Snag yourself a free Halo audiobook right down in the description below. I will start off by saying that 343 has learned quite a bit with Halo 4 and Halo 5, and also job positions have shifted around. Some people quit or left, and some people have joined, especially like the grandfather of Halo cutscenes and story writing, Joe Staten, in the lead position for the campaign is something I'm really excited about. But something troubling in the past was about how average fans had to know extensive knowledge outside of the game for us to fully understand the story, and Halo Infinite won't be like that. Someone playing this game for the first time should have a pretty good understanding of what is going on. A good couple months ago, my heart dropped because a rumor came out saying that the story in Halo Infinite was basic, nothing extraordinary, which got me thinking, could 343 have gotten cold feet on changing up things and trying to remake Halo 1? Of course, this was just a rumor and probably fake, but if they're more worried about new players completely understanding the story, then what's going to happen to all of us that have been invested in Halo for 5, 10, 20 years? This could actually sacrifice the integrity and quality of a well-told story. With the game being a spiritual reboot and also an entry point for new Halo fans, I wonder how far are they taking it, because it sounds like they are starting from zero. Master Chief is on Zeta Halo, fights through open world type missions like Far Cry, sees some foreigner facilities, yada yada, sees Cortana, fights Banished, and then kills Ashuram. The story all sounds so very predictable, and so far it seems like we've been right. I really hope that the story isn't as basic as we have been led up to believe, or as boring as the new weapons are, or the gameplay demo itself. I want to see Locke going missing or straight up dying, Cortana coming in conflict with Chief and Mendicant Bias, the Flood threatening the Banished at their height of power. If this story is just straight cut Banished versus Chief the whole way through, with no big plot twist or complications, or even cliffhangers, this game may be alright, but it won't impress, and so far, I don't think people are very impressed. I personally like the Banished. Well, the Halo Wars 2 Banished. For some reason, in Halo Infinite, they just screwed them up. Like 343 said, they're sort of a spiritual reboot of the Covenant, and I'm fine with this. What I'm worried about, though, is power balancing, or in other words, giving them unfounded, unbelievable strength with little to back it up just because they're the new bad guys. The best example of this was Agent Locke, whom had no real motivation or goal other than following orders, and was somehow more powerful than Master Chief. You could argue the same thing with Atriox. Even though he was a brute and a smart brute that ambushed a team of Spartan 2s, they're still at the end of the day Spartan 2s, and I'll talk more about this later, but basically Red Team was kind of dumb in this scene. I'm worried that Ashuram will be propped up to a similar fashion, along with Jaga, who may annoyingly overpowered and backed up with little explanation or reason as to why they're so powerful, at least in the games. This only weakens the character and feels like cheap writing, like they're not actually good or cool or likable at all, they're just kind of written that way. Like, how am I supposed to believe that the Banished beat Master Chief when their fight styles are less organized and less powerful than most of the Covenant in the other Halo games, and that they come down and drop pods without weapons? An extension to my point here is bad choreography, like how Locke and Chief were fighting wasn't just objectively bad, but it was also really dumb, like how they were swinging their arms and their fight in their self. Like, why are you fighting over your fist? Or Jul Madama's fight, which not only cheapened Locke with how capable he actually is, because anyone could have took Jul Madama down, but literally Jul Madama did nothing and took a knife to the throat. And Red Team at points would literally run straight into Atriox and stab his sides with small little knives. These things are subtle, but if you've seen them, you can't unsee them, and honestly, I'm really worried about the same thing happening in Infinite. Another huge red flag, something that I saw right away, was that 343 is probably trashing everything that we've built up to so far. Halo 4 was an alright standalone story, but just like with Spartan Ops, I'm at this point point where I just expect 343 to trash plot threads that didn't work before it. This isn't necessarily a bad thing moving forward, considering I think most of us weren't really invested in Fireteam Osiris or Locke. But usually, in this intentional plotline killing, it's done in such a bad way. And the whole storyline of Dr. Halsey losing her arm and wanting revenge on Spartan Palmer and Oni just kind of stopped entirely with no explanation, and that one I was actually really curious about because I think for many years in Halo lore it was building up to that. Unfortunately, no matter how good Halo Infinite's story is, I'm afraid that Halo 5 will weigh it down. And if they are able to redeem Halo 5 and make it work, I wonder if that will pull back Halo Infinite's story at all, taking on extra plot threads that really shouldn't have been there in the first place but now have to be dealt with. And as I've said for quite some time, Halo 5's story could still be great if, moving forward, Halo Infinite executes things really well. So far, and especially as of late, 343 has started taking this half step, kind of compromising with half of what fans want and half of what maybe new fans might want and would be approachable for new Halo players. And this is why I'm so damn concerned about the story, because I sense that they're gonna do the same thing here. However, I believe that there is actually a chance for them to fix all of this because of how things are set up in Halo Infinite, where we start the story with Master Chief already defeated, lost in space, and lacking memory. And throughout Halo Infinite, our goal is to learn as to what happened and what it might mean for the future. That means if we have flashbacks, then that could tell the story in a really controlled and also organic way. And that is something we really haven't seen since Halo 3 ODST, and I'm really excited for, and really fix up Halo 5's plot threads, come to their conclusion via flashbacks. And to kind of add to this, I'm just worried that it won't address things seen in Halo 5 or Halo Wars 2, like what exactly are the Guardians? You know, what is their role exactly? Because there's so much cool lore about them, and I think they should be discussed more, and their capabilities as well. And what is the domain exactly? I know that's in lore, but they need to explain it in the game. And what is the status of humanity in the UNSC since Cortana took over? And is Cortana still herself? Or, as some evidence suggests, and as I theorize, a corrupted logic plague copy of Cortana? And where is the Flood now, and what the hell happened to Blue Team and Fireteam Osiris? These are all questions totally worth answering, and considering we've waited 5 years for an answer for most of these, I feel like it's now or never, and it needs to be put in a cutscene, not a terminal, not some other form of media, not some text or lore book, something in the menu. These are things that need to be answered and shown. And speaking of which, the most basic rule of story writing is show, don't tell. Halo 5 constantly was just telling us what Master Chief was up to instead of letting us play as him. But as far as that goes, in Halo Infinite, we know that Master Chief is going to be the center of the story, so I'm not so worried about the show, don't tell thing anymore. Another thing I think would instantly ruin Halo's story or weaken the entire cast is just badly written characters or inflated amount of characters. So recently, 343 announced Jaga, an ex-Spartan hunter, and confirmed he is one of the several new characters in the game, and this several word got me concerned. Although 343 said they wanted to return to the basics, you know, Chief isolated on the ring by himself, fighting an unbeatable force with everything to lose, and I'm excited about that premise, but how are the new characters going to play in the game? The fact that the story is going to revolve around Chief makes me less concerned that most of these characters are just going to be kind of side characters and not interjected, you know, bad main characters, but new characters really aren't necessarily a bad thing, right? In Halo 5, there was an influx of stupid, pointless, role-less characters like Tanaka, Vel, or dare I say, Blue Team, which objectively are great characters, but the way that they were used in Halo 5, they didn't really offer anything but exposition and for Master Chief to talk to because Cortana is absent. I have faith, though, that the pilot will actually be fulfilling that role as someone to talk to Master Chief and maybe even talking through his helmet as, you know, an AI would have in the past. And the pilot is actually serving another purpose, and that is for another relatable point of reference for us Halo fans. Master Chief, Noble Six, and the Rookie haven't shown their faces, and that's because us Halo fans are supposed to kind of live through them as any good protagonist written in a movie or show or game. And I couldn't help but laugh at the sassiness that the pilot gave Chief. The frustration, but also the sense of closeness to the Spartan kept it grounded and warming, and I love it. Perhaps the most valid red flag yet that I'm worried about in Halo Infinite, actually seen in the trailers, is constant nostalgia preying or fan service that really is just kind of sickening how much they use it to make their game look cool, because it's just kind of preying on like the legacy of the other Halo games. We do know that Halo Infinite is going to be sort of a mix of all the Halo games that made them great before, so really Halo Infinite is not necessarily a new game, but a cocktail of all the previous Halo games. And that kind of has me concerned that will this game really feel original, or is it ultimately just a recreation of what made Bungie's games so good? And before you say what's so bad about that, I would say look at Star Wars Episode 7. A lot of that story just took everything great about the original Star Wars movies and kind of planted it in different ways. That was in of itself kind of a reboot. And ultimately what happened with that trilogy, with Disney's trilogy, was that, in my opinion, it fell really flat. It was constantly trying to prey on nostalgia and do things that once worked, but in a new, different way, which on the surface doesn't sound bad, but it ended up being really uncreative and really uninspired. And I think that you can get away with doing some of that, but if the whole story is just balancing on redoing things of the past, then I think ultimately the game is going to be a shell, a carbon copy of it, of what it once originally was. I want to see new things. I want to be shocked. I want to be surprised, and I don't want to be able to predict every single thing that's going to happen in the story, because so far, a lot of the things that we've seen so far has been really easy to predict, and I'm just worried about that, especially like with the Arbiter being interjected again. Even though I love the Arbiter, unless they find a really organic way for him to show up, then that would be great. And if we somehow derail everything that happened in Halo 4 and Halo 5 by making Cortana go right back into Chief's head, then I think that would just be so dumb, and it needs to happen in such a cool and interesting way if that was to happen, and not in just some way where they need to get back to the basics where Cortana is, friends with Chief and they're going on adventures again. We're past that point now, and what they keep alluding to with Cortana being Chief's AI again, I think is just kind of weakening everything that we've played for the past 10 years or so. Lastly, I wanted to discuss things that I'm not worried about, because although most of this video has seemed probably pretty negative, there's actually quite a few things that are green flags here that I'm really excited to see more of. Like the music, it just sounds phenomenal. It's classic, yet it's new and fresh. And the dynamic between Master Chief and the pilot is amazing. I can't wait to see more. And the fact that the story is so focused on Chief, I mean, that is really what Halo is all about. It is about Master Chief and his experiences. The sense of Halo that I get from this one scene surpasses anything in Halo 4 or 5 for me. Literally, those entire games feel less like Halo than this one scene. And I'm so excited to actually care about other characters besides Master Chief and Cortana again. And the pilot just looking and longing for his family is just so heartbreaking and instantly got me interested in his story arc. I'm also eager to discover how Master Chief got his butt kicked along with the rest of the UNSC, and that must be quite the story, right? And exactly how this ring got destroyed and why such a small bit of it got, blown up, and why not half of it or a third of it, I'm very curious why such a small little chunk flew off. And also exactly what makes the Banished so powerful compared to the Covenant, or at least unique, and how Jaga is hunting down Chief along with Ashuram, who is eager to fight it out with him, and it all feels a bit personal. All in all, I believe 343 has learned quite a bit, and I'm pretty excited for the story. Just a few things I'm a bit worried about. Guys and gals, be sure to snag yourself that free Halo audiobook. It's a quick sign up, link in the description. There's probably a lot of things I didn't mention here, a lot of things that have got you guys on a personal level worried about the story or campaign, or maybe not, but let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What are you excited for? What are you worried about, and why? And be sure to smash that like button blue to help out the YouTube algorithm and get this video up to other Halo fans. And I'll catch you guys in the next one soon, alright? You take care, stay safe out there. Peace.